I can't tell if it's recording.
It's recording.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and go into terminal. I've gone into my proper directory that I'm wanting to do this, and I'm just going to do create React app. Demo, let's call it that. So it's just going to go ahead and go through the typical things of create React app, where it's going to install everything, get the dependencies and all that up and going. Yeah, anybody got a funny joke?
Nice.
Thanks, Ben. Great joke.
Did you guys hear about the circus fire? It was intense.
Okay, so now we have the demo app, so I'm just going to go ahead and follow those instructions and cd into demo. Okay, so now we're in demo. Let's see, so it's already installed everything. So now I'm going to go ahead and do npm install -- save, and then I'm going to do styled components. It's going to go ahead and install the styled components. I'm going to just start it up right now. Well, actually.
Can you make it like bigger font? Like, I don't know
Oh,
what's
yeah.
going on over there. Please, Charlie, bring on it.
Yeah, so all I've done at this point is I've started to create React app, and then I've installed styled components, and then I'm going to be opening Atom, which is my editor of choice. Atom. So it's going to open a new window of that with that project, and then I'm going to just npm start.
Is styled components, is that when you install it, is it called styled components?
Styled dash components.
Style dash.
Styled dash components. Oh,
Did it take a while?
So you have to do this for each project you want to do.
yes, so for every project that you start, you would install styled components and other libraries that you're going to use on that project.
Team start.
Perfect.
Yarn start. Yeah. Well, not teaching us yarn, but like it just makes it go faster.
I was about to say you're switching to Yarn.
Yarn makes create React. If you just install Yarn on your machine, create React app, you'll install new React apps in like a third time.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
And then you don't have to even think about it again. Like you don't have to use Yarn add, you don't have to do anything. Still use it again. Get started. This like running create React app takes way less.
Interesting.
After you do it once. You do it once, it's about the same amount, and after that, it's cash. And so it's super fast.
Huh. That's interesting. I've never heard that. Okay. So now that we have that up and going, so we have, here's the project of Create React App. This should be fairly recognizable for you guys. Okay. Are all of us ready to go? Should I just continue? Should I give you another minute?
So mine didn't. I mean, whatever.
Is he supposed to start the server, React server?
Yeah. So I just
did
started
that first, and then I downloaded, did the install
Oh,
of
okay.
the style components, and now it won't. Yarn start and npm start won't work.
Do CD.
It was good.
He's sitting right next to me. I blame you too.
I blame it too.
Yeah, my yarn doesn't work either.
There, that's what we got.
Did you say your Yarn wasn't working or was working?
It's not working, sorry.
The yarn got tangled.
The yarn is tangled.
AutoCAD plan.
Okay, well, I'm just going to continue, and I'll help anybody afterwards who are still having problems. Okay, so now that we have everything installed, we can look into our package JSON. We can see that we have styled components right here, ready to go. So we're just going to go ahead and start by coming into the app.js, and we're going to import. I'm going to call it styled from styled components. Okay, so now that we have that going, so now that we've imported that, what? Oh, I thought you said missing an A, and I was like, wait a minute. What? Have I somehow been spelling component wrong this entire time? Okay, now this is the interesting part. This is where it gets a little bit weird. So outside of the class, or the component class, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start by making a constant. We're going to do a const, and I'm going to name it, just because I'm annoying, styled. And then we're going to use the import, which is styled dot, and I'm going to have everything wrapped in a div. Because I don't need use of a button or any other really other element. Div is just going to be a good wrapper for this. So I'm going to use div. Now here's where the interesting thing is now we're going to use a backtick. So this is, the backtick is the same one as the tilde on the keyboard, top left, enter.
You were looking for the name of that earlier, right?
What?
You were looking for what that's called earlier?
The tilde?
No, it's a tag template.
Tag template literal, that's what it was. Yeah, they're pretty cool. I was looking into them just like vanilla earlier, and they're actually pretty cool. If you ever have free time and want to have your mind blown, look at that. But okay, so now that we have this styled, let's go ahead and open up the style sheet. So let's see, so CSS, app.css. I'm just going to split that right. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to take everything from there. And I'm just going to dump it right into the style tag. Just easy peasy, quick copy and paste.
From app.js.
From app.css to the app.js. And then the last thing to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to then just make the styled element as the wrapper. So that's using the styled constant earlier that we made. That is styled components with the CSS. I've wrapped it all right there. And now, because this is live coding, this won't work. You can now, in theory, just remove the app.css altogether. Don't forget to remove the import of that as well, otherwise it'll break. And it still works. That's create React app at a very basic level, right off the bat using styled components. Yeah?
So if you're accessing, if you're using an asterisk to access everything, like you want to make set box size into a border box or something, where would you put that selector?
So like a global injection?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so yeah, we'll do a quick global injection. So styled components actually gives you the ability to have global injection. I don't do this often, so let's see if I remember. So import, and then we're going to use deconstruction to do global injection from styled components. And now we look at the documentation because I don't remember. It's kind of one of those things that you use once and you don't really have to do it again. Oh, you know what? I can look.
Are you looking for global style?
Yeah.
It's, so instead of injection, it's just style.
Oh, is it?
Global style.
Well, it's inject global, and I had that backwards too. Okay, let's see.
Oh, sorry. No, I was looking for
Inject global.
I think it's,
Yeah. And then all you have to do is do inject global with the back tick. And this gives you the ability to use the asterisk to style anything and everything. Typically on this index.js, the root level, you do things such as right here, you do the body styling to where you make the margins and padding and all that stuff. Set it 0 so that way your web page displays the full width. But you can also add a lot of different things into that inject global, such as your fonts and everything. You'd inject all of your fonts right there. That's where you do all that stuff. So,
Is there any benefits to doing this versus just the regular CSS file for global stuff?
you're not having to have CSS files in your app.
Okay.
Past that, I can't think of one off the top of my head. Other than later, when you do start diving into things like theme provider, I think you would lose the ability to be dynamic in that way. Because styled components gives you the ability to dynamically change your CSS. There's not just one CSS file that is loaded. It's everything injected in the head of your HTML. And so it allows the styles to be changed live. And I can give an example of that, Mike.
So it's not a download, it's going to be the same size as having a CSS file and a JS file. They're totally the same, but you will notice an improvement in your CSS rendering speed, because normally with a CSS file, if you have like 1,000 pages, that's a massive CSS file, right? Well, with style components, it's only going to inject the styles for the components you actually have on the page. So you have a much more limited amount of CSS actually rendered. As well as for me, like when you're managing a large application, it's really handy to have it separated. Because back in the dark days of like having SAS and whatnot, it's like, okay, now I have this component, I need to remove this piece of it. Now I need to find all the places that reference it over in SAS files and do all those. Whereas with style components, it's all living in your component. You should remove the component, all the CSS.
I was just wondering more specifically about you inject global. That in the beginning. So like I understand definitely like parts easier, but like why? Thank you.
Now let's see. Something that we can do to answer your question earlier of the CSS selectors. So let's go ahead and what should we add?
H1.
An image.
Hello.
Image. I don't even have like an image like just offhand that I could use.
Take a selfie.
Screenshot.
Let's do trying to think of what's something I could do that's, because this is live coding, I won't make myself look like a fool. Sure, let's do an image. Why not? Okay, so normally you'd just go ahead and you'd just do an image tag down here, and you'd have or C source. Okay, I can't remember if it was source or href. You'd have your source with your URL here. Dot something. So let's go ahead and try to do this with styled components. So what we do is we'd start by making a constant. We'd name this image. And then we would do styled dot image. And then the image is just going to display, and we just want a hover event. So for that, within styled components, because we're styling very specifically this element right here, image. Let's see, and then this would be source. Cats.
Why does everybody do that? What is wrong?
That one doesn't have any ears.
That's so much soul.
But the side is ironic.
So it makes him great.
Nobody really likes cats.
Do you have to import?
How come we're
No, so I'm just going to be using the URL. So now for the hover, let's go ahead and do hover. And then on hover, it's going to, I don't know.
It's gonna blow up.
Just sorry.
Blow up the cat, yeah. Change color.
So you just start this, I probably missed this, you just start
Yeah.
this.
So because it's automatically starting the styling on the image, and it's styling exclusively that image, you can just start right on the selector.
Just change the size.
Make it smaller.
Make it smaller.
Make it go away. Zoom.
Yes, please.
One
There's a
percent.
border.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Make it shut
Give it a box shot.
Display none. Rotate.
Okay.
Display none. That wins.
Where's the website?
Okay, now let's see if I did this right. Oh, this Zoom stuff is horrible.
Oh,
How do I get past this?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Cat image. And on hover, it goes berserk. Weird. I don't know why it's going berserk, but it's going berserk.
So it switches to display none, so therefore it's no longer covering over it, so it reappears.
Oh, that might be it, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Give it a border instead.
How come we put that in its own const and didn't just include it in the stuff above it?
So you can. This is the beauty of styled components. My way was just kind of a dirty wrapper, but you can actually go as small as you want. If you look at my project that I did over here and go to the pest control, so you'll notice that I have. Oh, okay. I was going to say I used two different ones. So I used one to style the entirety of the page, and then the other to style just specifically the content that's inside the block section. So that way I don't just have that way you don't get just super deep into having a huge CSS file. You can make it very, very small and very narrow. So let's say you have a problem, rather than having to dig through 300 lines of CSS, you can see exactly where it's at because there's only 5 lines of CSS with that particular issue.
Okay.
So it's not that one way is wrong and one way is right. They're both technically right. So just one's better. Border 15 pixels, solid, and we want it to be black. Figured 15 pixels is pretty obnoxious. Cool. Okay. So that was the very basic introduction to styled components. As I was saying earlier, there's lots more that can be done. As Bob was asking earlier if I was going to be doing, there are things that you can do such as case statements where like it's listening for events, and on that particular event, a style will trigger. You can just flat out put ternary operators within styled components to see if it's this, then do that. If it's not, then do nothing. There are so many things that you can do within styled components, and now that you have now that you know the basics and can know that it's really easy to implement, I'd recommend you digging into it. I'd be happy to talk to you more about some specific things afterwards, but I don't want to dig into all of your time. But this was my presentation of styled components. Pretty basic, but extremely powerful. Do we have any last second questions?
One thing really quick, so because it's a template string, you can just put the $ curly brace into relation. So that's how you can put in variable names in the middle of it, right?
Yep.
That's where you can return everything.
Yeah, so I'll explain what Bob was just saying. So within it, you can do things like, you know what, I'm just gonna give an example. I'm gonna show you guys some of our code for what we have at work. So this is the project that we're working on. It's called Veil. What's a good one that has like a variety of things I could show? Oh, geez. Yeah, themes, I guess. Themes is huge. So this is supposedly a single component, a single widget, I should say. Let's do color details. So because some of our things that we're building are just so massive on their own, like this one itself is 486 lines, we've actually taken it to where our styles live externally from the component itself. And how we handle that is we've copied the same name of the component. So this one in particular is called theme-color-details. And for the style sheet, we just call it themes-color-details.style.js. And all it is it's just a basic styled components. We're exporting the style sheet, and then within the color details page, all we're doing is just importing that and then using the wrapper as needed. So this is one of the things that Bob was talking about, not directly where it's a ternary operator, but this gives us the access to something we call the theme provider. So the theme provider it's very similar to like Redux, to where you can set one thing and it's accessible everywhere. So right here, what we've done is we have set our font weights for the text of our app to this variable called font weights. And it gives us the ability to, on the fly, change the weight that is predetermined just by giving it the font weight and selecting of which one we want out of the array. So this one we're selecting the first one, which is 0, out of the array of the font weights. So that's going to be, depending on what it is, it could be 200, 400, or 700. But that gets into messy detail. But you can also do the same with with colors. So here we've defined that we have this property called, or within themes, this object called theme. We have colors, which is just a massive object of colors that we've defined and given access to all of our components. And this particular color used in element is using the border color. And then down below we have more font weight. Oh wow, this wasn't a great example. We also have breakpoints for media queries. But it allows you to not just set colors, but multiple different things, such as pixel widths for media query breakpoints, as well as font weights as fonts itself. You can also set colors. You can do multiple things. You can even just set Booleans. Let's say, is this button active? Then give it this particular style. If it's not, don't. But these are some of the something literal. I can't remember what it was called. Tag template literal example is this is how you do that. as you break into that string utilizing props. So
These are all real time, so these variables update, you see it.
So here's a cool example of that actual application. So here's our app. If you go into the theming, you can then select a color and see in live time the colors will change based on what's being used. So we have the primary color as shown right here. And then we based using some calculations of like taking the color, lightening it by 25% and setting it. We've given all of these different colors. So you can then see that the color changes live, but it goes one step further of you can actually go and save and it'll update every single area of our application because we've used that themed provider. So all you have to do is change one color in one place and it'll allow you to change everything that you've used that color for with that one place. So it allows you to potentially do redefine your entire application by giving a new color scheme whenever you want, because it's not hard work. It's very little, to be honest. So that's some of the powers of styled components utilizing theme provider in particular, but there's so much more that it can do. So, okay. Any last questions?
Thanks, Evan.